This man's podcast, highly popular podcast, Green Light with Chris Long, is available for download where all podcasts are acquired. Chris Long back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, sir?
Dude, great plug. I would say moderately successful podcast. That's what we say.
No, why would you downgrade yourself? Like
well,
that?
it's always good to underpromise, overdeliver, Rich. Okay,
I appreciate that. What do we make of pro days? Should we make anything of these pro days that we're seeing right now? Jamar Chase running sub 4.4, Chester Pitts tight end 4.44. What should we make of these pro days, Chris?
I mean, they matter. Let's face it. We're flooding these pro days because we got nothing else to do, right? Mostly, right?
It is. I guess also content of interest. We hope.
Yeah, it's content. I can't pretend that I wake up every morning and think about the NFL first. Like there's March Madness and they're talking about pro days and how fast guys are running. Yeah, it's great. I mean, like I watched Kyle Pitts run that 40. He stacked an imaginary linebacker, ran a 4.45. And, like, he didn't even run in a straight line. Like, right. I don't care about his time as much as I care about how it looked. It looked amazing.
So what was your pro day like, Chris?
Man, listen, my pro day, I refused to do all the time drills. I just did drills with my head coach, Al Groh, because I knew I was going to the combine anyways. It's
right.
And each kid's got a decision to make with that. Obviously, this year is a little bit different. But, I think more than anything, if you just show up, good talent evaluators can tell who's athletic and who's football, whose skill set's going to translate onto the field. So the times are great. They're flashy. But half of them, I joked last year, like I just ran a 4.4 at my pro day. I tweeted it, so it must be true. Like, I've heard of teams shortening their 40, their length of 40 by a couple feet.
Come on.
On their feet. You're like, come on. Like, these teams, it's in their best interest that these players go high, right? So I take everything with a grain of salt.
And as somebody who rushed the passer as expertly as you did and was drafted as high as you were, Chris Long, the concept of football on a stick, using the football on a stick to simulate a snap for a pro day or a combine drill, it is indispensable, correct? The football on a stick, Chris?
Football on a stick is indispensable. I started a football on a stick for a combined 1 year of my life in D-line Indy drills. So.
There you go, right?
That's how it's going to be, man. Get used to the football on the stick.
Thank you very much, Chris Long. I knew I had you on for a reason here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you make of a 17-game schedule? Alvin Kamara tweeted out his disgust at the subject. What do you think, and what are you hearing amongst your colleagues in the NFL who actually have to suit up for 17 games, what they think of it?
Well, they seem pretty unhappy, and I don't blame them because they gave up, a lot. That one game's big, right? You get like a little bit more of the revenue, but without a second bye, it's going to be, it's going to be tough. And I think a lot of it's going to fall back on coaches. The consumer, the quasi-media member, whatever, like, my biggest thing is, how the hell do we talk about records? People are talking about this, like, I'm not doing, I heard you talking about this, like, best 17-game stretches. Yes. And comparing them. Like, listen, we've been talking about 1,000-yard receivers. You got to have a 1,062-yard season now. I'm talking about 2,000-yard rushers. 2,124 yards. That's where I'm going with it. I refuse to, like, double digits used to be a big deal if you got double digits in sacks.
Mm-hmm.
How many guys are going to get double digits now every year? It's just like it's a weird thing. It's going to be even harder to compare eras, and I hate that because we're so bad at it now. But for players, yeah, it kind of sucks. But a lot of it's going to be, who's your coach? Does the coach get it? Because if a coach gets it, I would play 17 games for a coach that gets it over 16 for a coach that doesn't get it.
How do you define gets it then, Chris? What's the
definition?
definition?
Knows how to take care of players. You know what I mean? Like, knows when to take the foot off the gas pedal. The new CBA handcuffs these coaches a little bit, and that's a good thing because left to their own devices, we'd be doing Oklahoma drills in December, and that just doesn't jive with performance. I can remember, ironically, the most fresh I ever felt in my tenure in Philly was when we got ready for a playoff game, 17th game of the season, and that was because we started walking through, and we started doing some of those things, including the Super Bowl run. So, like, coaches are going to have to really dig deep and find some empathy.
So using your phrase
dudes are going to be tired.
So using your phrase, Chris Long, of gets it, which coach of yours that you had in the pros got it the best?
Jeff Fisher got it the best.
Okay. Why?
How? Jeff Fisher was like, we did a lot of things wrong in St. Louis, but we played fast and we played physical. You know what I mean? And so from a player, looking out for the players' bodies, sleep, rest, like all that stuff matters. I know the coaches sleep 3 hours a night, but that's their choice. We didn't ask them to look at the same cut-ups over and over again. Like players, we actually have to recover physically. So from everything down to like when do you get guys in the building for treatment in the morning? If it's January and you're getting ready for week 17 and I rolled my ankle, I don't want to tell the trainers if I got to be in there at 5 a.m. I'm tired. So like all that stuff adds up, like top to bottom. How do you focus a little bit more on helping your players recover? And that's the coaches who are going to have to do this.
So then is it unfair or patently unfair that when the 17th game got announced, Jeff Fisher trended on Twitter because he can't go 7-9 anymore, Chris?
Well, I thought you'd bring that up, and that's funny. But like, and the thing about Fish is, and I always take this opportunity to say that, he's one of my favorite coaches I ever had, and one of the best coaches I had in a lot of ways, we just couldn't get over the hump offensively. But you talk about guys who've been in the Super Bowl. Yeah. He's pretty damn good about taking those jokes on the chin. He actually has a Twitter account, which is just very brave.
He does. And I bring it up also saying I guess it is unfair to say that because the guy did go to the Super Bowl. He coached many of the terrific Tennessee Titans teams, wound up 1 yard shy against, ironically enough, the Rams franchise that you played for as a player for him.
Who made that tackle, Rich?
That would be, Matt Jones. Matt Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
I was not prepared
I'm sorry, Rich.
for this part. I was told there would be no Jones.
History. That's the reason I know. And I've met Mike Jones, the other Mike Jones, the guy who made the tackle. He's super cool.
No, I know that. And Jeff was phenomenal in the as talking in the media about the competition committee. He was on that for many, many years.
Yeah, he's a good, caring guy, man. Like, he cares about his players. So, I mean, I think, anybody could take a page from a coach like that. Like, when it's time to work, it's time to work. But knowing what you got ahead of you now, like, that extra game is a big deal. And we don't know how much of a big deal it is because after a year or two, we're going to have studies on injury rates and that sort of thing. And, you see some of these contracts. You pay me $5-7 million, I'll play 17 with a smile on my face. What the hell? But I also get it. We didn't give up. We didn't get a lot in return here.
Well, I mean, there is the matter of Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you say to the fact that the pot that the NFL just acquired from all of these media companies deep into or into the next decade that equals $100 billion? The cap should go up. I mean, that should put more money.
Gotta go up.
Right. That should put more money in the pockets of players. That 17th game.
It absolutely should. And man, I thought "go woke, go broke" was the saying. I thought that I thought we weren't going to make any more money as a league because players were speaking out on issues they cared about. But
nice.
those numbers aren't real. I think that eventually players do see like that kind of baseball money, but it's going to be interesting. Because not everybody's going to get that baseball money. And, I feel like it's been a weird offseason. I think it's been about the haves and the have-nots and the caps down. So there's a lot to consider.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. What happened in Philadelphia that you're up for sharing, Chris? Because you want to talk about weird. My gosh, Doug Peterson, 3 years after a Super Bowl, is bounced. New coach comes in, and his first press conference in Philadelphia certainly does not give credence to the sense that you have to have a certain media savvy to be a coach in Philadelphia. And then there's a trading down of a draft choice that, man, did they earn by sitting Jalen Hurts in game 256 that got the whole country up in arms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what in the world, what can you share with me on this
Man,
one, Chris?
in general, at this point, I'd rather chew glass and talk about the Eagles offseason because it's just been so repetitive and everything I say gets shared. I basically grabbed a megaphone on Broad Street and was like, hey, you guys should care what I think. For the record, I'm on the Rich Eisen Show, and Rich asked me about Philly.
I did ask you. I flat out asked you, Chris. I am soliciting your response. This is not any sort of
self-important intel on the Eagles. I don't listen, man. Like I've said it before. It's been confusing at times, like what's going on there. But that's okay. I don't think we always need to know what the hell is going on as long as you hit on these picks. You know, the end result of all the Carson stuff, all the Jalen Hurts stuff, that Week 17 thing, is you're sitting here with 11 picks. You've traded back. There's a possibility you have 3 first-round picks next year, which are predicated on the performance of 2 other franchises and a player who you have good reason to, like in a classy way, if you're Howie Roseman, you're probably rooting against Carson's success because 75% of the snaps, making the playoffs, all those things, all those things factor into does Philly get that draft pick. Best case scenario for Philly, if I remember correctly, would be Carson plays 75% of the snaps and plays them into a top 10 pick.
Yes, he plays.
Which I think is unlikely.
Right.
I think he's going to play well. I think they're going to at least have a bottom 10 pick from Indy. I think they probably have a bottom 10 pick from Miami. So the scary thing for them is if they play their way into the middle of the first round, yes, they have a bunch of position players that they could take a stab at. But by making the decision that Jalen's your guy, and I really like Jalen Hurts, I wish he was in a better situation because it's chaos right now. It's not going to be easy to get the best out of a young player, but good luck. I think he's got the mental fortitude. If he plays you into the middle of the first round in 2022, what year is it?
Yep.
If he plays you in the middle of the first round, who are the quarterbacks in that draft class?
Well, we don't know, and a lot of people.
Your guy after a year, then what do? I think that's the scary, confusing part. And Philly fans are like obsessed with Kyle Pitts. I don't know if you read the internet.
Yes.
You can't draft Kyle Pitts anymore. So, like, you could be sitting here in a year, and you could have a lot of people pretty unhappy with you. Intentions are pretty high in Philly. So it's just a huge year for Howie, a huge year for that entire organization. And Howie's done some good things before. 11 picks, and support Jalen. Here's another thing. Rappaport said it. They tried to move up to 2. Like, I don't know, like, if you don't believe Ian or not, but, like, that makes sense that they would try to move up to 2. Zach Wilson, if you think he's that good, you take a stab at him for the reasons I mentioned. So I think they know that your Jets are going to take Zach Wilson, and I think that's why they moved back.
Right, and they moved back because, if you're not going to get the quarterback that you want and you feel that you could get the same value at 12 or similar at 6, I do read the internet. I had when I was talking in the first hour of the show about the pro day, saying it's a bad pro day for Philadelphia because both Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts are showing out, and I think Eagles fans thought they had a shot at either one of those two, maybe even a choice, heaven forbid, for them at 6, and now there's no shot on this Philly green earth.
Man, the Eagles fans are going to hate, like, LSU wide receivers are just trigger the Eagles
right,
fans.
Justin Jefferson. You went to Jalen Reagor for me right there. And Chris Long, I know you're savvy enough to understand the way I'm trying to take another crack at this subject matter with this question, so I even front-load it in that regard.
No problem. You pro.
What sort of quarterback are Colts fans going to get in Carson Wentz?
I think, I really think people are going to be surprised. I do. But it's just become such a polarizing conversation. Like, you either got to love Carson or hate him. Like, and he's just become the morning TV topic. He was there for like a solid 3-4 months. I saw people with veins bulging in their necks that I just didn't even know were there. Like, they were so upset about the Carson thing. I was like, of all the topics, this guy did he like kick a puppy in front of you or something? Like, the guy was in a terrible situation and they picked Jalen, and that's fine. That's the business. And, he wanted out. So I think he's going to be in a market that better suits him from like a microscope, standpoint. Like, the market's just a little bit different. He's not like maybe a guy who naturally would love like a big city with all that media scrutiny. And he's also going to be on a team where, although they do actually have to shore up their offensive line more than you think, he's just going to be in a more cohesive situation. And Frank Reich, who he's had obviously a well-covered history with, is going to help a lot. So I think you're going to get a middle-of-the-road quarterback, which is very good in the NFL at worst. I think that if you get anywhere near your 2017, he's going to be in the top 10. And that's probably an upgrade, even though Phillip played really well, if he's a top 10 quarterback.
Well, and just to finish up the subject matter, the thing I just don't understand is, and the things I hear all the time from Michael Irvin on my set, and when Sapp was on the set and Falk was on the set for NFL Network, is that quarterbacks, when they get the competition, they don't like it, and they act in a way that not a single other person on a field, defensive player, other offensive player, is allowed to act when somebody else is drafted to give them competition or back them up. And so I don't understand why the drafting of Hurts would send him in such a direction.
I also think that's really easy for Hall of Famers to say.
Okay.
Because they're so secure in who they are. Like, dudes in every locker room watch the draft, and dudes are sour when you draft somebody at a position where you're going to share time with them. I've been pissed off that they drafted somebody, like at my position. And I wasn't the franchise quarterback. The thing about quarterback is, if you're out, you're out. Like, they don't rotate you. So, it's funny. I just feel like a lot of times it's like, do we like the guy personally?
No.
Then we give him latitude. I'm not talking about you, Rich. I'm talking about, just anybody breaking down a player. Well, we like player mobility. We want players to be on the move and express their displeasure. But if it's a guy we don't think has a case, then just shut up. And that sort of thing, like me with Carson is, listen, has Carson been perfect there? No. I've said this before, like Nick Foles is a rare leader. Carson could learn something from him about that, but that's not to say he's not a good leader. But everything's been A or B. It's been Carson or Nick, Carson or Jalen. And you can't have A-B conversations and not expect the quarterback to say, well, if this is an A-B conversation, I don't want to do the joke, but I'm out of here.
No, I hear you. It just Doug Peterson at times was sticking with A way longer than what I thought, any other coach would. He even said at one point, he went to the microphone and said at one point, if I go to Jalen Hurts, I'm telling the team the season's over. And Jalen, when he finally turned to him, damn near saved it.
Well, Jalen breathed in new life, but you also don't know if he went to Jalen mid-season, because the production tailed off a little bit. You just don't know how 8 games of that would have been. And so I think if for anything, they should have done it earlier so that they had a bigger picture into what they have this year. And I think, as much as I support Carson, I've said this a million times before, that benching was warranted. I mean, he played himself into that. But they also assisted him into playing like that a little bit as well. Okay. I mean, that was it had been a rough couple-year stretch there. And, fresh start for him. I'm sure fans are not as, and I don't blame them because they buy tickets and that sort of thing and they want performance. I'm sure fans are not as patient as a player that's played with, guys, but I just, I'm rooting for him. So, I think he's a good dude. I think it just became such a character assassination conversation. And anytime somebody asks me about it, I'll just repeat the same thing. He's not a bad guy. He could work on some things leadership and locker room wise, reaching out to every corner of the locker room. I had Malcolm Jenkins on my pod. He said the same thing. Great guy. Could be more social. He'll work on those things in Indy. He's got to work on the football, though. That's the thing, Rich. If he's doing what he did in 2017, how much did you hear about his leadership?
So I just want to let everyone understand. I invited Chris Long on the show. I solicited his thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles on the show. I want everyone to understand how this all just went down. They're just going to clickbait me, and I really don't care. By the way, now hold on a second. Are you saying I invited you on for clickbait, or am I just taking?
No, not you. Okay, but this is going to be turned into clickbait.
Well,
you wanted to talk about the Niners too?
Sure. If you got a second, Chris. If you got Kyle going to the Chiefs, you want to hit me on that one? We could do that.
I'm pretty excited about that. That seems like watching him play on Sundays in Chicago. It could be tough. It's going to be a lot easier on the eyes in Kansas City, and that's not. It's just like it's tough. I've been on teams that were struggling or 500 or below. He's not going to have that problem anymore.
All right, Chris Long. I appreciate you being on this show. Everybody check out Greenlight with Chris Long, where all podcasts can be acquired and gotten. It is not moderately good. It is a very good. It's an excellent pod. Hold on, it's one of the best podcasts out there.
Keep going.
Just want to keep on. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the Niners?
I mean, sure.
What do you think's going on in that locker room as they're about to draft the 3rd overall pick rookie quarterback, and they went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G 2 years ago? What do you think's going on there, Chris?
Well, I think it just teaches us not to listen to GMs and coaches in like February or whenever we were like, oh, well, Jimmy G's their guy. And everybody was like, oh, well, they said it. If I hear another person I don't hear it. If you read the internet and you see another person talking about like, well, this coach or this GM said that, like GMs and coaches don't tell you, the public, anything, dude. So I really think maybe we should just wait until they try. It's like when Jeffrey Lurie said, Jalen Hurts is our guy, and then you read that they're moving up or trying to move up.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the NFL, which is tough business, and it sucks for Jimmy because the timing is going to be probably that they get the guy they want. They live happily ever after. Jimmy's got a no trade clause, right? So it could be probably like Denver or New England. Denver, I don't think he's enough to get Denver over the hump in that division. I mean that respectfully to Denver and to Jimmy, but I think New England's the chalky answer, and I think that's what ends up happening. And I would venture to guess like everybody's okay with that because you're going to have a young, exciting prospect, and you know what your ceiling is with Jimmy. You like Jimmy, but you know what the ceiling is.
So what happens with Cam if Jimmy goes to New England and you say the chalk happens? You bought Cam at such a. I mean, like it was funny the first day. Everybody was like, "Oh, $15 million for the year he had last year." Like, look at the contract. It's like $5 or $6 million for the most part. It's heavily incentive laden, and you look at Jimmy, who's got an issue with durability, and Cam. I don't blame him. He's played like a linebacker for 11 years, who also plays quarterback. You just don't know. So you got two guys with durability issues. You could probably have them at a lower price, and Cam, at worst, is a great guy you can throw into packages. Like Cam, I would rather play Taysom Hill than Cam Newton in a package like that. I hear you. And
you know what I'm saying? So I think they'd have good options there.
Okay. By the way, as we say goodbye to Chris Long, the reason why he brings up the want to talk about the Niners is I texted him yesterday the things I wanted to talk to him about. It's this very subject, so I appreciate you circling back and bringing that up. And the last one too is how the Bucs bringing back all of their players from the Super Bowl, all 22 starters, and how Brady probably went ahead and recruited a lot of them to come back, just like I'm sure he did for Chris Long. And what was your response? What was your response to that?
The funniest thing is you were trying to make it like personal to me. You're like, oh, that's the thing I could talk about. You were like,
right.
Like the Bucs brought back all their players. Did you see the news? Like probably a lot like Brady recruited you when you left New England.
Yeah.
I said, actually, you're not going to believe this, but I had decided to leave like right after the Super Bowl, and so he just knew he wasn't getting me back. That's why he didn't recruit me. But it's funny that Bruce Arians came out and said the camp is going to be like the hardest in the history of training camps after he got everybody signed back. Slick.
You're the man, Chris. Thanks for the time. Rich. I love our chats. Best to your whole family, please. Send my best
Take it easy, dude.
Right back at you. That is Chris Long. Oh, my gosh. Every word when we chat with him. I love talking to him. So smart, so funny. Gosh. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.